Moscow is rapidly developing high tech for the future. Science does not stay still for no one. Now, what are intelligent systems and what is a smart city? Let's find out. Smart city is developing really quickly in Moscow, and it actually all began a few years ago in the public transportation system. Muscovites don't need to buy expensive cars anymore because there's other technological options available.
Personal cars in Moscow are becoming a thing of the past. At present, public transportation such as buses, trams and trolleybuses, taxis are at the peak of popularity. We're on the territory of the Skolkovo Innovation Center at a station for monitoring driverless vehicles. There's an example of a driverless taxi right in front of me. Let's see what it can do. It's the first driverless taxi in Europe which independently passes other vehicles, drives around obstacles and stops at the right place. It can do all this thanks to cameras and sensors installed on the roof as well as digital equipment in the trunk. We can be especially proud of the fact that all the car's software has been developed by Russian software engineers. Moscow, of course, is an example to follow for the rest of the country. Here, artificial intelligence has come to play a decisive role in almost all areas of the life of its citizens. And now we'll talk to Sergei Chyomin, Minister of the Moscow government, head of the Department for Foreign, External, Economic and International Relations of the Moscow government.
Numerous rating agencies have placed Moscow on the list of leaders in the implementation of information technologies, in education, healthcare, and the housing and utility sectors. These unique systems include the following: the Unified Medical System of Electronic Management of Medical Institutions, the Moscow Online School, our unique traffic control system, and the intelligent transport system.
And today's smart technologies have been introduced into public transport. The system of driverless vehicles has 18 categories of various risks, and it responds only to 1/3 of them, the most significant ones. For example, a car can clearly see an obstacle in the form of a person on the road, and so it stops automatically a few meters away. So far, these driverless taxis have been driving only around the territory of the Skolkovo Innovation Center, but in the near future, the citizens of Moscow will be able to try out this know-how for themselves on the very streets of the city. This is a prototype of the city's electro-flying vehicle, or to put it simply, the first version of a future Moscow air taxi, which will avoid traffic jams and reduce both the level of pollution in the city as well as travel time. By the way, in the future, a new type of vehicle will look like this. This is the current model of a flying machine being flown in Dubai. It's kept in the air with the help of propellers around the sides that run on electric motors. In Russia, the stakes remain high on flying cars. Moscow developers assure us that their version will be better than other such flying cars around the world.
Well, just an ordinary telephone, you're not going to surprise anybody with one of these things anymore. But it's got an incredible range of possibilities. You can buy things online, you can buy for tickets to fly to Hawaii whenever you want. You can go into banks virtually, and of course you can just use it to speak on the phone to somebody. Hello, Olga.
A cell phone, a gadget without which it's difficult to imagine your life today. It has all the information you need: bank cards, your usual activities, the places you go, and your personal life data. In fact, this mini computer which we constantly carry around with us has become a key part of today's smart city. Alexander Hanin, Director General of Vision Labs company.
Smart City is an opportunity to create a comfortable environment for citizens, figuratively speaking, and to reduce the distance between a person and an official.
The first necessary condition is high-speed internet, which is now in every home, in public transport, and even in the Moscow subway, and will soon be on the streets of Moscow.
Today, the city is filled with data transmission channels. The question here is not simply about the availability of fiber optics, but also in those technologies that are being used, roughly speaking, at the end. If we talk about access to the internet using technical language, 1 megabit per second was once considered to be the peak of pleasure, yet now MGTS provides speeds of even 500 megabits per second, right on up to a gigabit.
The video cameras of the Centre of Traffic Organisation operate on the same principle. They are called park-ons and are built into the car itself. Their task is to record parking and stopping violations, as well as to record unpaid parking. The images captured are clear, even at a speed of 60 kilometers an hour. 2 cameras work simultaneously in the system. One shoots a picture of the general view, while the other captures the license plate of the car. There is also illumination for night patrol. The car drives through the same area twice in order to catch a violator in the act. It'll be difficult to hide from justice thanks also to a Bluetooth wireless personal network. To date, it's been used not just for data transfer between phones, it also guards courtyards to keep out unapproved cars and lets inside only those who have a special key. And it can block the passage through a ticket barrier in the subway, as the organisers of the World Cup did in Moscow.
Special ticket barriers were installed in subway stations, which allowed entrance through the barriers and free use of the services of the Moscow subway during match days. This technology used fan ID features issued to each of the fans.
Smart technologies have come to play an active role in almost all spheres of life in Moscow. Digitalization specialists call this an ecosystem, and the citizens of Moscow refer to it simply as a kind of comfort, which will soon become even more accessible. And now we'll talk to Dmitry Zininok, Director for DOM, MGTS Ecosystem Development.
Your face is the main factor because it is a way that you can confirm your identity. That is, now it's even established at the level of federal law that you can receive a remote banking service without having to leave your house. There is another interesting scenario in retail, where you can choose a method of payment from your purchase by using your face.
Moscow has taken leading positions in the overall ranking of countries in terms of quality of virtual services provided for citizens, second only to Singapore, London, Shanghai, New York. Experts say that in a few years, the people of Moscow will need to leave their homes only in case of an emergency or to meet friends. Everything else will be available via the use of smart technologies. Eduard Lysenko, Minister of the Government of Moscow, Head of Moscow IT Department. Eduard Anatolyevich, thank you very much for finding time to meet with us today. I know you have an incredibly busy schedule. Now, today we're living in an era where almost everything around us is already automated. Can you tell me, please, now, just how deeply has these new technologies, smart technologies, entered into the lives of Muscovites? And what areas have these technologies affected already?
Well, you know, in our opinion, they have not entered deeply enough, but they are already present well enough in every area that surrounds a person in Moscow. We think that the first thing the government needs to do is to provide electronic services. That is, there are about 260 electronic services available for people to access through a single website, the mayor's web portal. And the number of applications to this web portal amounts to approximately 750,000 every day. And the total number of services rendered in November during 9 months came to about 8 million. That is a lot. This is such a big point of presence, a true electronic dominance. You know, people need to go and solve their problems, and this is very important for us. This eliminates barriers, saves time, and this is a real leap in understanding, which is highly important for people. Another important area is education. It is actually the thing that makes us who we are as people, grew up from childhood, and it forces parents to dive into the system of all possible services in the world, and also in the city, of course. Accordingly, our main aspect is a digitalization of the educational process. This is a highly developed infrastructure, which is called Moscow Online School. It covers at present 1.5 buildings and is a high school teaching the 5th to 11th grades. And there we have special interactive panels, a special Wi-Fi zone and electronic content.
Isn't it a replacement for a teacher, or is it just kind of a help for a teacher?
Of course, this can by no means replace real dialogue, but given the fact that we all live in the world of technological progress, we certainly provide new technical opportunities for teaching.
So the most important ones are transport, education, and...
And medicine as well. Of course, medicine is also very important, and we all have to deal with it from time to time. We all want to do so less often, but nevertheless, at present there are 600 medical institutions which provide free public medical care, fully covered. This segment is entirely covered by the relevant infrastructure. That is, we have unified record services and an absolutely transparent record queue. The mayor can monitor this all online, and he can see the length of a queue up to the last office in the form of little green and red men. Of course, the mayor does not personally track this right now. It is monitored by a special control system, the situational center, but it simply reflects how free, clear and easy everything has become. We already have 7.5 million electronic medical records in the system, fully electronic, and there is a constant circulation of medical documents within it.
So it turns out that this smart technology allows people to manage the resources that they now have more effectively, right? Now, in what way do these new technologies make people's lives more comfortable? And how do they help Moscow citizens?
For the city, this is certainly a matter of economy and logistics in the first place. That is, when, for example, a new medical polyclinic is being designed, they take into account all the data accumulated and stored in electronic form over several years. We can see where people live, how they move around during the day, and how their children go to school. Not in the sense of every individual, but in the sense of the masses. And this big data allows us to design a new point of presence. For example, an outpatient clinic can be designed with the understanding of what kinds of people live around that area and where they are studying. It's pretty clear then how they will go to this medical facility.
5G is the next step. When will it be launched? Is it dangerous? I've heard some rumors that birds are dying and other terrible things. And what is it actually like in reality?
5G pilot zones are already working in Moscow, and they were available during the World Cup. But no animals were hurt and people were happy.
Many people say that with the arrival of artificial intelligence, lots of jobs are and will disappear. What is it like in reality?
You know, speaking about artificial intelligence, despite the fact that for many years there have been languages that teach themselves and can win chess matches, a person has other things to deal with, and this is more than about creativity and more about issues related to inventing something based on what computers can provide us with. That is, well, I think that it will be the case. As for production, the general trend of production is micro-production with regard to 3D printing and so on, and it also goes in the same direction. That is, this kind of intelligence, including production facilities, will help people to express themselves better. Actually, young people as they are growing up, they are not so fixated on the difficulties of their past. They think in terms of services, they think in terms of information, and they think in terms of problem solving. With this in mind, and for this purpose, artificial intelligence is being designed to provide it as needed. What's the most important thing here? Well, we should not forget who the designer is, so that these designers are truly bright, with a bright mind and a healthy heart, and that they have worked for a good cause.
Thank you so much for your time. I wish you good luck in your work. Goodbye.
So now we know what a smart city is. Pretty cool, isn't it? But we should never forget that technology, doesn't matter how smart it is, can replace live communication in the city of Moscow. My name's John Harrison. See you next time.